pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Roll call, please, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Haas?
Here.
Ms. Krishnowski? Here. Mr. Liscavige?
Here.
Ms. McDermott? Here. Mr. Perry? Here. Mr. Sabatino?
Here.
Ms. Smith? Here. Ms. Stevenson? Here. Mr. Thornton?
Here.
Mr. Wilovich?
Here.
Mr. Lombardo?
Here.
11 of 11.
All right, we'll now have public comment on the proposed ordinance amending the 2024 fiscal year budget for Luzerne County to create a line item number with the Department of Veterans Affairs budget to account for rent relating to the leasing of space in Hazleton City Hall. Anybody? Do we have any slips? No? Anybody else in the room? Anybody online?
Motion to adjourn?
Motion? Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. We will restart at 6:01 with our regular voting session.
Recording stopped. All right, it's 6:01 p.m. I'd like to call the voting session to order. We already had the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Recording in progress.
Roll call, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Haas?
Here.
Ms. Krishnowski? Here. Mr. Liscavige?
Here.
Ms. McDermott? Here. Mr. Perry?
Here.
Mr. Sabatino?
Here.
Ms. Smith? Here. Ms. Stevenson? Here. Mr. Thornton?
Here.
Mr. Wilovich?
Here.
Mr. Lombardo?
Here.
All present.
All right, thank you. We do have one ceremonial proclamation for Open Government Week, and I will read it. Whereas the week of May 27th to 31st, 2024 will be recognized by the County of Luzerne as Open Government Week, and whereas Open Government Week, which is a global call to action to transform the way governments service their citizens, and whereas Open Government Week promotes the sharing of ideas, discussing solutions, and promoting a commitment to new levels of citizen participation in government, and whereas county government is working to make communities stronger, more open, participatory, inclusive, and accountable, and whereas when governments, public officials, and society work together, communities can be transformed. Therefore, we, the Luzerne County Council, do hereby proclaim May 27th to the 31st, 2024, as Open Government Week in Luzerne County. I'm not sure if anybody's here to accept the proclamation. Was there, Romelda?
No, I
Okay.
guess we accept our own
All right,
proclamation.
sounds good. I think we do a fairly good job of that.
Yes.
Especially since home rule was implemented.
Absolutely, and I'd just like to announce that tomorrow at 5:30, Tony Brooks will be conducting a tour of the courthouse. And if you haven't been on one of his tours of the courthouse, you're missing out. And it will be tomorrow at 5:30, and it's in honor of Open Government Week.
Thank you, Manager Crocomo. Next, we'll have the announcement for the executive session. Attorney Skeen.
Prior to this meeting, we had an executive session to discuss matters relating to the prison, litigation matters we have filed against us at prison, and discussed possible outcome.
All right, thank you, Attorney Skeen. And just to note, in an effort to be more open with the citizens, we do have that listed in our council agenda, that there is about 2 sentences that relate to what our executive session was about. So we're going to try to do that now from here on out. Are there any additions or deletions from the voting session agenda? Is there a motion to adopt the
Motion
agenda?
to adopt. Second.
Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The agenda is adopted. We'll now have public comment on voting session agenda items only. If you have a comment, please step up to the microphone and state your name and municipality. You'll have 3 minutes. Anybody in the audience? Anybody on the Zoom?
Come on, there must be somebody.
All right, hearing none, we'll move on. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the May 14th, 2024 voting session.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, the meeting minutes are approved. All right, first we'll have the county manager introduction of the ordinance adopting the 2025 long-range operational, fiscal, and capital plan for Luzerne County.
Good evening, council. According to the charter, the county manager must submit the capital plan ordinance before June 1st. I am introducing that ordinance, and I believe that there is an updated actual capital plan that is being distributed. And next work session, we will have operations, have a PowerPoint, and explain all the projects that are on the capital plan.
All right, thank you. Any questions? All right. Number 2, motion to adopt the ordinance amending the 2024 fiscal year budget for Luzerne County to create a line item number within the Department of Veterans Affairs budget to account for the rent relating to the leasing of space in Hazleton City Hall.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lescavage. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Stevenson. Roll call.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lescavage?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry?
Yes.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 3, motion to introduce ordinance amending the 2024 fiscal year budget for Luzerne County for MHDS.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second by Ms. McDermott. Roll call.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lescavage?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 4, motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the agency name change from Luzerne County Children and Youth Services to Luzerne County Children, Youth, and Families.
So
So
moved.
moved.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Stevenson, second by Mr. Thornton. Roll call.
Mr. Lescavage?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 5, motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the submission of a strategic management plan program application to the Pennsylvania Department of Community and Economic Development.
So moved.
Mr. Wilovich and Mr.
Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lescavage?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 6, motion to adopt the resolution to abate delinquent Luzerne County taxes for the property located on Cary Avenue in the city of Wilkes-Barre.
So moved.
Mr.
Second.
Sabatino and Ms. Stevenson. Any questions? Roll call.
Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lescavage?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 7, motion to adopt the resolution authorizing the use of American Rescue Plan Act funds accrued interest for the purchase of work vehicles for the Luzerne County Road and Bridge Department.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Lescavage is the first and Mr. Wilovich was the second. Roll call.
Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski?
Yes.
Mr. Lescavage?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Mr. Perry? Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 8, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project for the city of Hazleton.
So moved.
first and a second. The second was Mr. Liscavige, I think. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence?
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 9, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project for the Luzerne County Correctional Facility. First and a second by Mr. Sabatino.
Question.
Go, on the question, go ahead, Mr.
I
Thornton.
just, I read through that today. Now, it was a little confusing to me. We've given them money for new elevators over there, and then we went back and gave more money for the elevators. Is this also for elevators? Or-
Mr. Wilbur, would you care to speak to this? Or, I'm sorry,
Actually-
Mr. Vogt. Apologies.
This was for the doors. Good evening. This was for the doors and locks for the prison. It was allocated for that. We're just moving it over to the elevator. Not even sure it will be used there, but we're just making sure that we can use the other money for the doors and locks for the elevator modernization.
Okay, I'm still a little confused though.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's,
There was money allocated.
There was money left over from the doors and locks project
Oh.
at the courthouse.
okay.
So we're just gonna move it over to the elevator modernization as a safety net. Probably won't even need to use it, so.
I apologize. Is there any anticipation that the elevator modernization may cost more than what, is already
Not
allocated?
at this moment, no.
No? Okay, but it's
And
just
we're on-
there just in case, so you don't have to come back to us again?
Yes, and it's
Understood.
on schedule to be completed late September, early October.
Understood. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Vogt. Any other questions? Roll call?
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 10, motion to adopt resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project for Plymouth Borough.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call, Ms. Lawrence?
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige? Yes. Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 11, motion to adopt a resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project for the Borough of Shikshini.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Ms. Krishnowski. Roll call?
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 12, motion to adopt the resolution approving a modification to an American Rescue Plan Act funds awarded project for the Wyoming Valley Sanitary Authority.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Roll call?
Mr. Haas?
No.
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson? Yes. Mr. Thornton?
Is this simply an extension of time request? Is that what it is?
Yes.
Extension of time.
Yes.
Okay, I'll vote yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
10 yes, 1 no, it passes.
Number 13, motion to adopt the resolution approving a proposed memorandum of understanding between the Luzerne County and Teamsters Local Union 401. This is for aging.
So moved.
Motion and a second. Roll call?
Ms. Krishnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Ms. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 14, motion to adopt the resolution approving a proposed memorandum of understanding between Luzerne County and Teamsters Local Union 401. This is for children and youth.
Second.
All All right, motion, and the second was by Ms. Smith?
We said it at the same
Mr.
time.
Okay. Yeah, Ms. Smith. Roll call.
Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott.
Yes.
Mr. Perry. Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski. Yes. Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 15, motion to adopt the resolution approving a proposed memorandum of understanding between Luzerne County and Teamsters Local Union 401. This is for MHDS.
So moved.
Second.
Motion, motion by Mr. Thornton, second by Ms. Stevenson. Roll call.
Ms. McDermott. Yes. Mr. Perry. Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski. Yes. Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 16, motion to adopt the resolution committing a local match for state operating assistance for the Luzerne County Transportation Authority.
Second.
All right, motion, Mr. Lescavich, second by Mr. Wolovich. Doesn't, okay, sorry, that's Mr. Wolovich, it's fine. It's fine. All right, on the question,
Yeah, just on the question, Mr. Chair.
go ahead.
Members, you saw my proposed amendment, the email that I sent Manager Crocom. I appreciate you getting back to me about that. Going forward, is it possible to use, even for this upcoming year's budget, any ARPA interest funds or anything on hand to offset the match for LCT or HPT as well?
We could, there's alternate revenue sources. We have the ARPA interest. There may be some revenue loss. We're still calculating that because we may be shifting allocations. My suggestion, and it's only a suggestion, is you don't specifically say that where the source is in this particular resolution. Let us find the pockets of money that can be used, and then we can have a resolution based on that.
Thank you very much. It's very helpful. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, and just for the public's edification, this is already a line item that's in our current budget for this year, so we'll just be replacing whatever excess funds we're looking for with what Mr. Haas is suggesting. Go ahead, Mr. Thornton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to agree with Mr. Haas, because anytime we could find alternative sources of revenue, it relieves the pressure off our budget. And, at the end of the day, when we have to come up with that final budget, nobody wants to raise taxes on the county. So this finding alternative sources will help us stay away from that scenario of raising taxes. So I agree with Mr. Haas.
Anybody else? Roll call. This is as is, no amendment.
Mr. Perry. Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski. Yes. Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott. Yes. Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Number 17, we have an appointment to the Flood Protection Authority. I'll entertain a motion to open nominations.
Motion to open.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are open.
I'd like to nominate Mr. Mitchell.
I don't second it, right? Do I second? Yeah, we second it. Yeah, second it.
Yes. Okay. Second. Any other well, there's only one, I think.
Second.
All right. Motion to close. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Nominations are closed. We'll have the resolution for Mr. Mitchell.
First.
What?
We need a motion.
I
Yeah.
make a motion to nominate Corey Mitchell to the Flood Protection Authority.
All right. Motion and a second. Roll call.
Mr. Sabatino.
Yes.
Ms. Smith.
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson.
Yes.
Mr. Thornton.
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich.
Yes.
Mr. Haas.
Yes.
Ms. Krishnowski. Yes. Mr. LaScavitch.
Yes.
Ms. McDermott. Yes. Mr. Perry. Mr. Lombardo.
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right. We don't need the resolution too, right? That was it.
That was it.
Okay, got it. Just making sure. All right, number 18, appointments to the Luzerne County Drug and Alcohol Executive Commission. This is for a student member.
Motion to open.
All right, Mr. Sabatino and second by Ms. McDermott. I'm sorry. Was it? Oh, Mr. Wilovich. You guys have similar voices. I got to move you, I think. All right, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, nominations are open.
Nominate Kristen Coffey.
Second.
All right, second by Ms. Stevenson.
And I believe that's the only
Motion to
eligible
close nominations.
person, right?
Yes. All right.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wilovich to close, second by Mr. Sabatino. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nominations are closed. All right, we'll have the nomination.
I'd like to make a motion to nominate Kristen Coffey to the Luzerne County, Wyoming County Drug and Alcohol Commission.
Second.
Okay, second by Ms. Smith. Roll call?
By Ms. Smith or Ms. Krasnowski?
Ms. Smith. She was kind of quiet.
Okay.
It's okay. It's okay.
Ms.
I don't
Smith?
know.
Yes.
Ms. Stevenson?
Yes.
Mr. Thornton?
Yes.
Mr. Wilovich?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krasnowski? Yes. Mr. Liscavige?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott? Yes. Mr. Perry? Yes. Mr. Sabatino?
Yes.
Mr. Lombardo?
Yes.
Unanimous.
All right. That's all for the agenda. We'll now have public comment on non-agenda items. Anybody in the public? Anybody in the audience? Is there anybody on the Zoom? All right.
Motion to adjourn the voting session,
Second.
Mr. Chairman.
All right. Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Voting session is adjourned. Do you want to just continue right into the work session?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's
Sure.
continue right into the work session. Give me 1 second to pull up the, all right. All right, I'd like to call the work session to order. We already had the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. Roll call, please. Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Ms. Krasnowski?
Yep.
Mr. Liscavige? Ms. McDermott?
Here.
Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Stevenson?
Here.
Mr. Thornton?
Here.
Mr. Wilovich?
Present.
Mr. Lombardo?
Here.
All present.
All right. Any additions or deletions from the work session agenda? Is there a motion to adopt?
Motion.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Wilovich, second by Mr. Sabatino. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Agenda is adopted. First, we'll have the Flood Protection Authority presentation. Where did they go? Okay. Okay, well, since they just walked out, we'll move to number 2 and we'll go
Well,
back.
it says handout, so we have a handout, I guess, right?
Yeah, it's this PowerPoint,
one.
which I believe everybody has. Yeah.
Well, are they coming back to present something on?
Yeah, I think they may have gone out to the IT person. Do you want to just go check really quick before we move on?
That was kind of strange.
They may have thought we were going to take a break.
Unless they got cold feet.
I have to say, it was kind of nice finding out there's a bridge with my last name on it.
Right,
Not
right.
gonna lie.
Whole street with your last name in Duryea. Are they? They're gone?
But it's Stevenson, not Stephenson.
Listen,
Okay. All right.
We got that down.
All right, we'll move on to number 2 then for now. If they return, then they return. Receive and discuss budget reports for April 2024. Mrs. Holland? Okay.
Yes, hi. Okay, so you should have quite a few reports from us in front of you. I'm gonna start with the first revenue report. Revenue earned is at 47% of the budget, right now 78.4 million. Last month, we were at 17%, so tax collections have really increased as expected for the month of April. As previously mentioned, the discount period ended on April 15th, so this revenue climb was anticipated. Expenses are at 34.3 million, only 22% of budget, which is favorable given we're a third of the way through the year. The accounts payable report is the next in your stack there. And it just reflects the expenses running about 22% through April, and these are similar to the accounts payable trends in April of 2023. Next is the treasurer's report. The current cash balance is $192,386,052.86. The cash balance at the end of March was $152 million. The increase in cash is mostly due to the increased tax collection through April, combined with interest revenue and low trending expense payments. Interest earned for the month of April is $445,470.44. Of that, $276,651 is ARPA interest. The ARPA cash balance is at $63.5 million, with ARPA interest earned year-to-date $913,898.32. ARPA interest earned in total is $5.66 million. Ms. Lawrence distributed the budget transfer listing report, which is the new report we started in February based on a request from Councilman Hawes. There are only a few budget transfers added since last month. Again, at the beginning of this year, there were quite a few relating to 2023 as departments finalized their end-of-year spending. This time of year, there aren't really that many. The budget and finance staff is still working with Baker Tilly on the 2023 audit. Testing and field work are wrapping up. We still have weekly check-in calls to ensure we are on track, and things have been going very well. The Budget and Finance and Audit Committee met last week to receive an update on the audit progress from Baker Tilly, and the committee began drafting the RFP for the next 4-year audit firm contract. Are there any questions?
Any questions? All right, thank you very much. Before we go any further, Manager Crocomo, would you contact the members of the Flood Protection Authority that were here? I mean, there's members of Duryea Borough that are here to speak on the situation there. They, I'm sure, would like to hear this presentation. So if we can get them back in here. Otherwise, I'm just going to let them speak at the end of the meeting or whenever, when we finish this on
I
the
will,
bridge
but
if
they weren't, that was the Wyoming Sewer Authority
Right.
people who left. But I'm going to try
Okay.
and contact the Flood Protection Authority.
Okay.
Oh, that was not the
No.
Flood Protection Authority? Oh,
Okay, I made a mistake. But either way, they should be here. Okay. All right. In any case, we'll move on. Discussion regarding the resolution approving a contract with Microsoft Corporation for productivity software acquisition and operating system licensing.
The Information Technology Department is once again recommending that the council approve a resolution authorizing the county manager to execute an agreement with Microsoft Corporation for continued software acquisition and licensing. This is not a new contract. Agreement. There are third renewal of the agreement, we just finished one out here, and it would run from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2027. Annual payments will be in the amount of $562,292.98, and these payments will continue to cover the cost of Microsoft Office productivity software, collaboration, such as SharePoint Teams, email service, including retention policies, archival, advanced threat protection, spam filtering, desktop operating systems for all county computers, including upgrades to new current versions, usage rights to any of previously referenced software, to 5 devices per licensed user or employee, access to previously referenced software through Microsoft's government cloud for mobile users, unlimited number of virtual servers, county's pre-existing virtual data center hosts, SQL servers, instances on the county's existing virtual data center hosts, as well as active failover between our data center hosts, thus providing redundancy and continuity of business needs that can or outage, upgrade rights to any reference software to current versions, and of course Microsoft support for all reference software. Not renewing the contract would require immediate purchase of perpetual licenses, which would obsolete over time without the software assurance benefits of the agreement. In addition, the county has expanded its virtualization data center infrastructure in recent years, for which a significant number of county services are hosted. Additional licenses to support this upgraded infrastructure have been factored into this renewal, allowing us to maximize the potential of our recent investments. Not renewing the agreement would require further upfront purchases of perpetual licensing, which once again would become quickly obsolete without the software assurance benefits associated with the agreement. So it's the strong recommendation of IT staff, the council approve the resolution authorizing execution of this contract once again, so that county operations can continue down the path of efficiency in acquisition and budgeting and continued modernization.
All right. Any questions from council members? All right. Thank you very much.
it seems that microphone goes off and on and off.
Maybe
and
the
on.
battery might be dead.
The batteries need to be changed
Okay.
every meeting.
Oh, great.
Wow.
All right. Well, I guess we'll move on. Number 4, discussion regarding the ordinance amending the 2024 capital plan for Luzerne County for the sheriff. Sheriff Shumsky.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I'm here to answer any questions you might have about this.
Any questions? Oh,
We have we have the handout here somewhere.
We talked about this last week.
mhm.
They're just moving the same as one we did before. So monies that were not spent in 2023 need to be moved into the 2024 budget so they could pay bills that they incurred in 2023.
Yeah, I remember we talked about that. Yep. Thank you.
Any other questions from council members? All right, thank you very much. Nice. I was going to say short and sweet.
How did you ever memorize all that?
All right, number 5, we'll have discussion regarding the resolution allocating American Rescue Plan Act funds to Dallas Area Fall Fair Incorporated, trading as Luzerne County Fair. I believe we have Mr. Pugh here to answer any questions.
Yes, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Our Luzerne County Fair is a nonprofit operated by 9 various organizations that own the fairgrounds: the Lions, the Kiwanis, the band, 4-H, Rotary, all make up the grounds, and the Penn State Cooperative 4-H. As you may know, on September 9th of last year, we had a devastating flood hit the area. It did several hundreds of thousands of dollars of damages to the fairground. We were part of the request for federal funds submitted by Luzerne, Wyoming, and Lackawanna County, denied and then denied again on appeal. We also submitted this, of course, to our insurance carriers, and that was denied as per flood. So at this time, we have frankly reached out to anywhere we could possibly look to obtain money to repair the grounds. We said we've been there 62 years, and as the Luzerne County Fall Fair that we trade as, a organization servicing the area, and we appreciate your consideration. I'm here to answer any questions.
Any questions?
I have one.
Ms. McDermott?
I saw in the application, the budget submitted, or actually that's in our packet here, that the engineer report is $35,000. Was that already done? Is that a reimbursement for that?
Nothing has been paid to date. There was an estimate to match it. Again, we have tooled this for everything we have been able to apply for. The total expected damages to the fair is in excess of $700,000. We're fixing the damaged areas, the buildings, the facilities, and also in addition, since our original estimates was some of the original drain lines put in, which I'm sure you can appreciate, or the Flood Protection Authority was here, were 15-inch. They now tell us they need to go to 24-inch because what we essentially now see regularly is much larger water and flood conditions than we used to get in the past.
I have a question.
Go ahead. Ms. McDermott?
Is any of the work able to be done by the fair employees? Anybody, do you have your own equipment to do anything, or all these quotes by contractors?
Right, so for example, the fair does a lot of it. In the last year, volunteer hours by the Luzerne County Fair, equipment owned by our own company, et cetera, probably came close to $100,000. In fact, just before I left to go out of town, ourselves were out there digging up the water line and repairing it. So that was done. It cost us $2,000 in parts, but all labor is performed by us. So unfortunately, some of this requires engineering, riprap, and heavy equipment, no different than some of the major water courses the county has fixed over time. So that is required to have engineering, geotech, all those other items, and so it would likely be beyond the scope. We do much of the repair work out there, we can ourselves, but this damage, unfortunately, at these levels exceed much of which we can do. That particular night of September 9th was a Saturday night when the fair was damaged. We evacuated 500 people with the buses that were graciously volunteered to us, and we used our own equipment as well as the contractor that was working on the sewer to hold the water back and push the water courses back in. So I can assure you, everyone out there digs in as much as possible. We're a 100% volunteer organization. Nobody on that board gets paid. It is made up of all the community clubs. So anything we can do, we've done. Some of the escapes our scope.
Mr. Liscavige?
I look at this situation similar to the baseball.
Sorry.
I look at this situation similar to the Little League team that was here a few weeks back, where you have people committing hours upon hours of their time to make a fair for Luzerne County. And I'm thankful that people like yourself and other people, you know, carry that torch to get this done. So I have no issue with this whatsoever, because not only do people go out there to enjoy the fair and all the festivities, a lot of great food to be had, and I think somebody like Brian Thornton would appreciate that.
We appreciate that. The grounds, in addition to serving as a fair, runs 4-H shows. We have a junior fair board. As you know, volunteerism is down significantly. We host and hold the Back Mountain Police's trailers. We secure them. We're the evacuation center for several schools and universities. In the event they have to evacuate for whatever reason. So it serves much more purposes. The Luzerne Conservation District uses our grounds for various training. The Pennsylvania Game Commission uses it for dog trainings. It's open to many various organizations and other nonprofits to use the grounds. It's a great property, a gym in the area. We had purchased the property next to us about 10 years ago. We're making their final payment this year. That's been $30,000 a year that we raised to do that. That leaves us at 70-some acres because all the property around us has been sold for development. So it also serves as an agreement with UGI and the other ones who have high power lines to there. There's a staging area in the event of major storms in the area. So I assure you, we try to use it for everything. We also hosted your COVID testing that was done through the Department of Health and Luzerne County at the fair. We did your drive-through testing. So it serves many purposes, so we appreciate your consideration. I'm just speaking loud because your mic was on.
Go ahead. That's okay, Mr. Pugh. Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. McDermott. And then Mr. Haas.
Who actually owns the land? Is that the fair? Is that all of the organizations?
The Dallas Area Fall Fair, as an organization, is owned by the Dallas Lions Club, the Harvey's Lakes Lions, the Lake Silkworth Lions, Dallas Rotary, Dallas Kiwanis, Back Mountain Youth Soccer, Your Dash 365, Penn State Cooperative Extension, the 4-H Club, and the Lake Lehman Band sponsors. That's who started the fair, and other nonprofits can join. For example, Back Mountain Youth Soccer is a relatively newer one that has joined. So there are procedures to come on and join the board as a nonprofit. Those agencies do their major fundraising at the fair. That's how, if you notice, if you come to the fair, we collect canned goods for the food bank, eyeglasses. We do the eye testing through the Lions. So it is owned by those organizations. That's who owns the property.
Mr. Haas.
Absolutely, Mr. Pugh, it speaks for itself. Anybody who's ever been before really appreciates the county fair there at the fairgrounds. My question is, if council doesn't approve this allotment, where are you going to come up with the money? What's alternative plan?
At this point, I honestly don't. As I said, we're not.
It's a lot of hot dogs and coffee, I know, to cover that, to something like that.
During COVID, of course, we couldn't open the fair, so a lot of members reached in their pockets. You know, we promised the fair would go on. A lot of people donate from the community or volunteer to come out and help us do the work we could do. But I do not know that answer.
Mr. Sabatino.
Great, thank you.
Oh, sorry. Are you
No, I'm good, Mr. Chair. Thank
okay.
you.
Mr. Sabatino.
Thank you. As a person who was there that night at the fair and seeing the damage that was being done, it was absolutely incredible. And the work that these people do to keep that ground looking immaculate is incredible. So I would support this as well.
Ms. Stevenson, and then Mr. Lescavage.
Yes, this definitely sounds like a project worthy of dollars. My question is, has all of the damage been assessed, and is there any way that this can be something that is broken down into payments over time based on necessity? So current issue, things that we can fix now versus spending $500K off the jump.
Yeah, actually, I think we're going to be closer, like I said, over 700,000. Unfortunately, when the engineering came out, doing the repair to make the facility back to usable and fixing courseway, of course, we have to direct the water all the way out. This damage, if you were to look down our hill by the barns, which there's widely circulated pictures of flooding, it gouged out about 6 feet deep. It looks like a miniature Ricketts Glen. And that blew right through the barns and took the material with it. That's what we were pushing back up with machines. And that continued to way down all the way to the rear gate, which blew out Dallas Burrow's new drain pipe that the fair also helped work with them. We paid for the drainage pipe to help with them so they could make it larger, but unfortunately blew the asphalt and everything out. So if we don't do all of it and can get the water all
Mr. Liscavige?
I think I have an idea for a match for you, though. I think if you were to put sausage sandwiches on sale, somebody like Brian Thornton could probably spend $250,000 at that fair and close the gap for you. That's just a payback.
Well, sausage and peppers.
Get it right, Kevin.
There you go. Any other questions from council members? Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
I just want to commend you as well. Some of my favorite memories are at the Luzerne County Fair. Parents are both teachers at Lehman. Spent a lot of time there. I know that you guys do a lot of good work there, so I agree. I think this is a worthy cause.
All right, thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep, any other
Thank you.
questions?
More of a comment, but just for council members, we do have to find out what the balance of our American Rescue Plan funds are. Some of that money is going to be maybe moved around a little bit, and we can use interest money, but what I want to know is how much do we have left, and also what projects, what county projects do we plan on getting done? So if we can get those numbers before this would go on a voting session, I'd like to just have all that information so that we don't skimp on any of the county projects.
No, absolutely. I think we have to assess priority first and evaluate those numbers before we can make a decision like that.
Go ahead, Ms. Smith.
Agreed.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, thank you very much, Mr. Pugh.
Thank you. I'll just finish up with
Yeah, go ahead.
That fair, after we evacuated, of course, the majority of our board members are also volunteers. So while the fair was taken over by our capable team, the rest of us are out in our EMA capacity, evacuating people in town, closing roads. The fair is gracious enough. We also store some of our Back Mountain Regional and our Dallas Township EMA for during the winter, keep out of the weather. So it serves multiple purposes. So I really hope you'll consider it, and we appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pugh. All right, looks like we do have a representative from the Flood Protection Authority here now.
Yes,
Do we wanna-
apparently we were running ahead of schedule
Oh.
in the time that they were told to be here, so.
That's an efficient meeting. All right,
That's because Walter's not here.
strike that from the record.
We have a few more minutes, because I'm still waiting for some of my partners to show up, who are actually gonna.
Do the presentation, CPI.
All right, all right, we can, I guess we could take a 10-minute break if everybody's okay with that. All right, would that be enough time, do you think?
I believe so, yeah, because they're right behind me.
Motion to
Okay.
recess.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We'll return at 6:50.
Yep. I gotta get after those other ones out front.
What do you been?
No, I have the Chevy Silverado.
Oh, yeah, what are you doing?
Nothing really. Back recall. Yeah. How are you?
Eye dries out because I can't blink. And then the wind, like the air conditioning dries it out.
I wish we had like, random office and pen
No, I
place.
was like, no, I can't go out there with sunglasses. I'll take them off.
The first time I saw them, it was building how are you? I don't really make that much. This might be too very much.
Which one?
All right. He's great.
That's out of line.
All right, council, we're going to restart here in just a minute.
I've caused the problem. I've caused the issue. Does that mean I have to go home?
Click your heels 3 times.
He's. All right, we'll call the meeting back to order. We'll have roll call again, Ms. Lawrence.
Mr. Haas? Ms. Krishnowski?
Here.
Mr. Liscavige?
Here.
Ms. McDermott? Here. Mr. Perry? Mr. Sabatino?
Here.
Ms. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Stevenson?
Here.
Mr. Thornton?
Here.
Mr. Wilovich?
Here.
Mr. Lombardo?
Here.
You have 10 of 11, did I? I didn't miss anybody, did I?
No, I
Okay.
think you got everybody. Okay. All right, we'll move back to number 1, the Flood Protection Authority presentation. Mr. Ballman? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak before you tonight. Before Jim here starts his presentation on some of the issues we've experienced with the Stevenson Street Bridge, for those who may not know, I just want to provide a little short background of how we got to this point. The original construction of the flood protection system in Drury Borough was completed by the Commonwealth in around 1968, so nearly 60 years now. There's been modifications to the system have occurred over the years, but Currently, the flood protection system is non-accredited by FEMA for flood insurance purposes, and there's a number of deficiencies in the system which will prevent it from being accredited. And that's how the authority got involved. About 3 years ago, Duryea Borough approached the Flood Protection Authority, and they requested our assistance to get the system rehabilitated and into compliance with Army Corps of Engineer standards, and then to eventually achieve FEMA accreditation. The authority board, agreed, and we executed an agreement with the borough, to help them in the efforts to get accredited, and then to eventually take over operation and maintenance work on the system in turn for a lump sum fee that will be negotiated later in a few years. Shortly after that, the authority entered into an agreement with Agreement Pearson, Inc., who are located up in Worcester, Pennsylvania, for their professional engineering surveying services to perform the necessary studies, designs, permitting, to develop the construction deliverables that is going to be required for the rehabilitation work. The design is now 75% complete, and earlier this month we met with some of the other main stakeholders, Duryea Borough, Luzerne County, Pennsylvania DEP, to present the findings that that we've achieved. We're here today to talk about, to give a boiled down presentation of that presentation we gave in early May, but specifically to talk about some of the issues we've had with regard to the Stevenson Street Bridge, which is a county-owned bridge. And with that, I'm going to turn over to Jim Moore with Agreement Peterson, who's going to talk about some of the findings that we've discovered.
Thank you, sir. Making noise here. Thanks, Chris. My name is Jim Moore. I'm a vice president of GPI and the project executive for the Duryea Rehabilitation Project. My colleague, Matt Chorba, is behind me someplace. He's got hard copies of all this presentation in a stick if you need it, but I'll run through if it's okay with you. Next, please. So what we're going to talk about is what we're doing overall for making the levee accreditable under FEMA and USACE guidance. We're going to talk a little bit about how the bridge plays into that design that we're working on right now. We'll show you our calculation of the design flood, or the 100-year flood, which, as you probably know, living here in the valley, changes every time we get a major storm event. So we're catching up with primarily Hurricane Lee in 2011, which caused the change in a lot of FEMA guidance. We're going to talk about a couple potential solutions, or where our issue comes in with the Stevenson Street Bridge. We'll talk about the cost of those potential solutions, and then maybe some pros and cons to consider as you're making your decision about what we should do with that bridge. Next, please. The site plan kind of shows where the levee, is there a pointer or something? Maybe I should go to the levee is on the lower part of the, in the orange there. Yeah, okay, how about that? The levee itself protects Duryea Borough from both the Lackawanna and Susquehanna rivers. For those of you familiar with Duryea, the levee consists of about a mile of earthen levee, one closure structure on Stevenson Street. And for those of you familiar with, right out here outside the courthouse, there's a closure structure along North Street, right? And several of them throughout the valley that go up when the Susquehanna's up. So there's one closure structure. There are 17 drainage structures, I believe. And our proposed solution for raising the levee is to raise it on the river side of the levee. We're trying to avoid as much property impact as we can. Where we came across a problem is when we're looking to raise the closure structure on the Stevenson Street Bridge. It sits on top of the bridge, of course. Underneath that is the abutment for the Duryea side of the bridge, which, as you'll see in the upcoming photos, is in really bad shape. So we're not able to, as engineers, recommend that we build more on top of that. And even now, we're going to recommend to you that there has to be something done either to fix or remove that bridge so that even under the present conditions, the closure structure is not in danger. There are a series of photographs that when you get your hard copy, you'll be able to see looking backwards and forwards across Stevenson and down across the alternate side of that bridge, which is called Swamp Road. That it ends up going from Duryea down to Coxton. And you'll see from based on our design flood, what happens to that road and what happens to the bridge, quite frankly, under the 100-year event that we're designing to. Next, please. Those are the various pictures we're looking at. That's Stevenson Street Bridge. It has a gate on one side on the private property side. There's another gate on the far end of Swamp Road where it meets Coxton Road. And in between there are various pictures of Swamp Road and Coxton Road in between. Next, please. This is the abutment or back wall of the Stevenson Street Bridge on the Duryea side. As you can see, it's been eroded and delaminated and spalled, whatever mechanism you want to call it, but there's very little left of the back wall of that abutment. And of course, this is where the highest flows are going to impinge on that back wall of that bridge. So we're concerned about its lifespan even now. And the difference here is one is the upstream side on the left and the downstream side is on the right. Both have that evidence of spalling and eroding that we're concerned about. Our closure structure exists above this and 20 feet to the Duryea side from there, so that it depends on the integrity of this abutment for its survival. Next, please. This bridge has been inspected on a regular basis by the county. The first pictures there came from the 2022 inspection report. This is from 2023, I believe. And it shows the structure itself, what's called box beams or concrete box beams that comprise the span itself that have some issues associated with them as well. The next slide shows in a little more detail what those are. Next, please. So you can see that the box beams are also starting to fail. So from our perspective, to accommodate what we need to be able to either build that closure structure higher to meet our new needs or to build an alternative to it, which we'll show you in a minute, we need to do something with at least the first span of that bridge, and from a practical standpoint, perhaps even the whole thing. It has been noted, of course, yearly that all of the components of that bridge, the deck, the superstructure, the substructure, the piers, everything you can associate with it are all rated poor by the engineer who does that inspection. And they've recently reduced the weight limit from 32, I think, to 22 tons, right, Matt? That's on it? 33 to 22. Next, please. So we've overlaid our design flood on the map that's there right now, the similar map we saw in the beginning of the presentation. And one of the questions that were asked of us in the last meeting is how open does that access remain from the other side? We know that it's right now private property, but I know the borough is interested in acquiring, may have now acquired a piece of that property, and was concerned about how people might use that for access. The 100-year flood, from what we can tell in our design, will cover Swamp Road with at least 8 feet, in some instances 9 feet of water, because you can see how the 100-year flood kind of waves out to the north there. And that's primarily due to the backwater from the Susquehanna. And from our design, of course, we have to design for both the Lackawanna and then later when the Susquehanna comes up and produces backwater. So that's what our design is based on, and that area will be, of course, deeply flooded in the event of a design storm. Next, please. So what are the alternatives to remove at least the first span of that bridge so we can build either a levee or a closure structure raising in a more safe condition, or repair that bridge abutment so that our closure structure, both the existing one and the replacement or the revisions, aren't in danger of failure. Next, please. Apologize for this being a busy slide, but this shows our approach that we think is our recommended approach, which is don't have a closure structure anymore, put a levee across that road. And on the far left, there's a levee, which the same section you're familiar with seeing right out here is a trapezoidal levee made out of earth. That way you don't have to deal with the closure structure anytime it floods, and it's a much more reliable and safe solution for flood protection than a closure structure is. So what we'd suggest is that abutment just get trimmed down to match our new levee elevation, and that at least the first span of that bridge be removed so we don't have to count on that abutment to support us. Next, please. If it's your decision to retain the bridge and we have to raise the closure structure, we need about 2 foot 9 inches more to add to the top of that. So we'd have to redesign or reinforce the foundation that's shown here, and we'd have to raise it by adding additional what are called stop logs or aluminum panels to raise that elevation up. Lower right is a very old picture of the first closure structure on Stevenson. That has been revised since then, and there are more stout and formal stop logs that go in there, but they still need to go up 2 feet 9 inches. So we're going to have to redesign and calculate loads, including foundation loads, with that new loading. Next, please. What are the costs of doing this? Well, it's pretty much in this market. It's sometimes not as accurate as we'd like it to be, but this is where we think we're at right now. We think if we select a levee instead of a closure structure and remove the first span of that bridge, we're in for about $500,000. If we if we raise the closure structure and someone or some project repairs that abutment, that's about $1 million. And the breakdown, of course, is we're saving money by putting a levee in instead of a closure structure, and we're demoing the first span of a bridge instead of repairing the abutment. And of course, the ultimate removal of the whole bridge would be an additional cost if that's your decision. Next, please. There are pros and cons. We think that by doing the first span removal or the complete removal and building a levee there is going to be less cost, more reliable. We think that the pros of leaving the bridge there, repairing the abutment, is that you'll still have access across, even though you won't have access at a design flood. At the lower levels, you may still have some access. I would point out that at a certain point, and we have yet to decide that when we work with Chris on what the O&M manual would look like, when does the closure structure have to go up? And if you're familiar with how that works here in the valley, at a certain point when the level's predicted to reach a certain point, the stop logs go in and the road gets closed. So that's a problem here too. Even if you could get up Swamp Road or you could get down Stevenson Street, you're going to run into the closure structure at some point in time. So what are the cons of doing that? For removing the bridge or removing a first span of the bridge, there is more impact to the river itself, and we're working with DEP on what our impacts might be. And what are the cons of repairing? It's more expensive. We know that's going to happen, and that it's going to still require you to do the maintenance of the bridge and of the closure structure. A levee is much less labor intensive. Next, please. And subject to your questions.
Any questions, council members? Ms. Stevenson? Sorry, she was.
Yes, the impacts on the river. I know you just said that you're working with whoever to figure out what those requirements might be, but what would those impacts look like based on your experience?
Yeah, and it's interesting because when we talked about the meeting we had with DEP a couple weeks ago, we're going to raise the levee on the river side. Most of that is going to be in the dry, but some of it's going to be in a river, right? We're going to have rock fill. We're going to have to dig in the toe of the river. So what they've asked us to do is we're going to have a pre-app meeting with them to say, here's the total. And I think, what was the total impact? We had a number on that. It was under an acre of total in the river work. So we're trying to minimize that, but we can't avoid it in some cases. They're going to be looking at whatever protected species there are, whatever invertebrates there are in the river. But if you've seen the water, I doubt that there's a whole lot of high quality species. But we of course have to go through the process. And now if you remove the whole bridge, they're going to want the piers taken down to the river level, and that will require construction equipment and a causeway to be built to access that with equipment.
Thank you.
Mr. Thorne.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just going back through your presentation, about halfway through, where these photos of the underspan were taken, and they're pictures, obviously, of the concrete box structures underneath, and you could see clearly where they're cracked, and they're starting to exhibit signs of failure.
Right.
So we all know that issues like that don't improve, they only get worse.
No,
right?
sir, they do not.
And it's my understanding that they rarely use this type of construction these days. They still use concrete box.
Not so much boxes,
Span.
but they look like I-form sections of
Right.
precast.
Right.
Steel, concrete, depending on who's got the market at the time,
Yeah.
is the way to go. I haven't seen a lot of concrete boxes.
Right,
anymore.
I understand they're rarely used, so, I guess my question to you is, and maybe comment, many people who are a little familiar with this bridge have stated that the only issue is that abutment that's compromised. But in fact, it says here that the deck superstructure and the substructure underneath
Right.
are classified as poor condition.
Right. That's been the case for a
So it's
number
not
of
just the
years.
abutment
No, sir.
that's of
No.
concern, it's the spans.
Right, and
Right.
there's those other deficiencies noted on the engineer's report about the railing, how it's not traffic rated. There's no guardrails on the approach to handle traffic
Right.
impact. So if you were going to rate a bridge, and they did, they rated them all poor,
Mhm.
the whole, across the board.
And again, to keep that bridge there and to build your closure structure is probably the less favorable option for the levee. And as you said, in a condition of high waters or flooding, that bridge would not be able to carry traffic across it anyway, because
Oh,
it
no, no,
would, it would be impeded by the closure structure.
And portions of it are underwater.
So
Against the
it's-
closure structure, there's about I think it's like 9 inches to a foot of water at the design flood.
So then it's not a viable option for evacuation and things like that?
No.
With vehicles?
No, no,
Oh.
and of course, on the other side, Swamp Road is underwater.
Right.
Considerably, so
So
if you're there, you're gonna be trapped on the opposite
Right,
side. Yeah.
right. And just so everybody here knows, that bridge is solely owned by the county. The county owns that. And it's had a gate at the other end of it for quite some time, right? On the end of that bridge.
There was up and I imagine the gate is still there.
It is.
Because it was a private property owner that had it and didn't want other people on there to, cause mischief or, other illegal activities there.
Yeah, from what I've stood there for the day when we were doing the borings, and the only traffic across there was dump trucks that were hauling waste spoils over to the mine site on the other side. And he had a key to the gate.
Other questions by council members? Ms. Krishnowski and then Ms. McDermott.
I guess my question would be, the number one thing for this would be flooding. The number one thing for this would be flooding. How many houses would be flooded, with this? Because it evidently must be dangerous.
I'm glad you asked that question. I even pulled my slide on the last presentation so I didn't screw it up. There are 1,221 people behind the levee, 597 commercial properties, 6.7 miles of roadway, and 2 critical facilities identified as the Duryea Municipal Building and the Holy Rosary School. So yes, all of those, if that closure structure failed, it would be catastrophic.
And has they flooded in the past? Because the best thing to do would be to get rid of the bridge completely then.
Oh, they've surely flooded, yes. Even as late as 2011, there was flooding in Duryea, right? Yeah, yeah. There was some overtopping, some through flooding. The closure structure, I don't think, it didn't, of course, it didn't fail in 2011. But given the condition of those abutments, that's probably the most risky part of the remaining project right now.
And it can flag, that's my big thing, because it's really, it's life-changing when your house gets flooded.
Whoa,
Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, it really is. And that's what was concerning when you were talking about the flooding of the people on the other side. That's what made me, okay.
You're
Well,
right.
thank you.
Ms. McDermott?
Not a question necessarily for you. Is this paid for solely by the county?
The bridge
Well,
portion would be.
Just the bridge, like if it went with the levy, would that just be paid for by Flood Protection Authority? Do you?
Yeah, I can answer that.
Okay.
Right now, it's, the design phase being fully paid by the Flood Protection Authority. I mean, as part of the levee raising project, of course, the physical construction has been completed a long time ago, but there's still a mitigation program that we're trying to complete. And so what we're doing in Duryea, we're doing that under our mitigation program. And the goal here is to get the shovel-ready project so that we can go for grants to fund the construction phase.
So that it sounds like the project is not fully funded yet, but the county is not, the county, like general fund, is not, is going to be responsible for this project. We may be responsible for any aspect of alteration to the bridge that we choose, if that's the case.
Okay, all right.
And Manager Crocomo, I don't know if you want to add anything to that?
Thank you.
No, you're on point with that analysis. Our obligation has to do with the bridge, whether we refurbish it, rebuild it, or demolish it.
Okay. Any other questions by council members?
And I think the cost of demolishing that bridge was listed as 500,000?
Yeah, I think you're a little north of that, probably.
750.
Probably
I remember I was at the
750.
meeting a few weeks ago at the FPA building.
Roger that.
And Jim Brzezina, our former county engineer, said it'd be closer to $750,000 to the county would have to pay to demolish the bridge.
Correct, and I think the figure to rebuild the bridge was $3 to $4 million.
Oh, goodness, yeah.
Would that $750,000 price tag be for demolishing the entire bridge, including the piers, or just for the first span?
Yeah, that's what we were thinking, the
Yeah,
whole thing.
the whole thing.
Okay. All right. I have a question, if that's
Sure.
okay. So in the one picture you have of the closure structure, we actually, the day of that meeting at the Flood Protection Authority, a few of us, myself, Vice Chair Thornton, and Manager Crocomo, along with somebody from Road and Bridge, actually went to the bridge. And in another picture, actually, the church on the other side is my church, so I know this road very well. I was wondering about this. I know you touched on it very briefly, the concrete structures that those metal footings are put into,
Right.
that there would have to be additional like load analysis and whatnot.
Right.
And as you said, the actual closure structure is about 20 feet, maybe a little bit more, away from the physical bridge itself.
It is.
So was there any testing done on what raising that wall would look like on that concrete, or if we can
Sure.
improve that some way?
Yeah, well, we feel confident that we've done corings on both sides and actually through the closure structure, so we know what's underneath it. The issue for us, the primary issue for us is the fact that we have to evaluate it for failure, right? And when we do that abutment is one of the major features that has to hold it up. So if it fails, all of what we calculated above goes away and goes into the river. We also know that underneath there's every utility in Duryea crosses underneath that closure structure. So we're going to have to deal with that somehow. And we, quite frankly, haven't even gotten all the respondents to come back yet and tell us exactly what their lines look like under there. But we know notionally that there's going to be a pretty big cost associated with that.
Have there been a lot of discussions with the borough regarding this yet, between all of you and the Flood Protection Authority?
We've had the meeting a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
They know gave progress
Right.
reports from Chris, but
I personally feel like this might have been a little bit of a premature presentation on our end, just because we haven't had the opportunity to speak with the borough ourselves, and I
Sure.
don't think that they had an opportunity to voice their concerns and what their issues are with the potential impact of removing the bridge are.
Sure.
So I just think that's just my opinion.
yeah.
We'll be meeting on June 10th. We just set that up.
Okay. All right. Fantastic. Any other questions by council members? All right. Oh, go.
Just for the edification of everybody here, I believe on the other side of the Lackawanna River, where the bridge has a gate on it now.
Yeah.
That's pretty much those pictures of those dirt roads back there. But
Yeah.
isn't that going to be part of the Heritage Trail connecting the Lackawanna County Trail to the rest of Luzerne County Trail?
I don't know the details of that.
I think
sir.
I'm seeing nodding yes by the
Yeah.
former mayor of Duryea. So the plan is to have a heritage trail back there, not necessarily development of houses and things like that.
I see.
I just wanted council to know that. Thank you.
Just for information, a 100-year floodplain does extend considerably across the other side. Because it's so low and flat, and when the river overtops, that's where it's going. And when we're building up the Duryea side, we're going to make sure it doesn't come into Duryea, so it's going that way.
Yeah, I think that there are a number of options that we might not have discussed here
Sure.
in this presentation, not relating necessarily to the specific bridge that we're talking about. But I think that we should really take the time to discuss those before council and the county makes any decision on the bridge.
And we're at a great time in our design where we're welcome any input.
Yeah,
So we
and
can-
certainly we don't want to belabor the process, but we definitely want to do it in a way that it'll be good for the residents and most of all, safe for them too.
Oh, understood. Thank you.
All right.
Good night.
All right, if there's nothing else, go ahead, former Mayor Moss.
I'd just like to clarify a couple things. He was saying about the closure. We have a emergency man. I'm the emergency management director of Duryea. I used to be the former mayor. We have a plan that calls for 33 feet. We have homes out in Coxton, approximately 30 homes, maybe a little bit more, that we have to evacuate them people out of Coxton. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. They can't get out on their own because if you go north through the Narrows, Falling Springs comes down there. I don't know if everybody's familiar with Falling Springs, comes down, floods the road. You can't get through there. So then people are stuck in there. So what we do is we have the emergency plan, and when the river is up to 33 feet, we have to close the gate. So when the river comes up to 27 feet, which floods by John's Garage and Coxton Road, when you come off of Main Street into Duryea, we go over to Coxton and we tell the people they have to evacuate out of there. The sewer authority, the Lower Lackawanna Valley Sewer Authority, I went and rescued them in 2011. I went through Swamp Road with my personal pickup truck and got in there and got their computers out of there. They got their backhoe out of there and everything like that. We came out of Swamp Road. So Swamp Road does not get flooded at 27 feet or 33 feet. After 33 feet, then we have problems. But I just wanted to clarify that at 33 feet, that gate gets closed. All the people are out of Coxton. We make sure, we tell them people, we notify them, you want to get out, you get out now. If you don't get out, you are stuck here for days. We're not responsible. What happens is the power goes out over to there because of the Lower Lackawanna Valley Sewer Authority and everything. So the main thing is, he's saying about the weight on the bridge. The only time that we use that bridge is when we evacuate people out of there or in emergency situations. That's the only time we use that bridge. And if I may, Stephanie Schwip is here from the chairman of council. Duryea just purchased all of that land back there. And that's where the Heritage Trail is going to go through there and come up through if everything goes good with it. You have any questions?
I think part of the concern on the residents of Duryea's part, at least from what I understand, what I remember hearing at the Flood Protection Authority meeting a couple weeks ago was, one, what you mentioned about the residents of Coxton, obviously the most important. And second was that the Heritage Trail will go through there and that Stevenson Street Bridge is supposed to be an access point. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Trailhead will start as soon as you go over the Stevenson Street Bridge, where that gate currently is. There will be a trailhead that will go along the river, and then there will also be like a trailhead along Swamp Road to produce like a loop.
Does that trail connect with the Heritage Trail through Pittston?
That's the overall plan, and we'll
Okay.
that eventually as well.
Okay.
And
Any
that's
other
going to
council members?
connect with the Luzerne County National Recreation Trail, which
Right.
is in Pittston.
Yes.
And then Mayor Lombardo and yourselves down there is bringing that trail up through to the old Bevico Foods that way and bringing it out onto Main Street because the railroad won't let them come up the railroad with it.
That's right. Okay. Any other questions, council members?
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. All right. If there's nothing else, we'll have public comment. Any public comment on anything? Anybody in the audience?
Where's Walter?
Yeah.
I meant
Twice.
Waldo. Where's
He's-
Waldo?
Say it again. He's like Beetlejuice. All right. Anybody on the Zoom? Is there a motion to adjourn? Motion?
Second.
All right. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thank you very much.